Hi, my name is Jim Callari. I'm the editorial director of Plastics Technology magazine, and I'm joined today by Kevin Huntsman, who's the senior vice president of Mastio Company, a market research firm based in St. Joe's, Missouri. Plastics Technology is going to be doing a series of blogs based on research conducted by Mastio Company last year, released this year, on polyethylene film extrusion markets. We're going to be looking at the 5 largest markets for polyethylene based on Mastio Company's research and the 5 fastest growing markets. We're going to turn our attention now to bubble film, which is among the 5 fastest growing markets in polyethylene film. But before we do, for the benefit of folks tuning into these videos for the first time, Kevin, why don't you give us a little bit of know-how on Mastio Company's business, this polyethylene study, and how long you've been doing it, and then we'll take a deeper dive into bubble film.
Great, Jim, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mastio has been in business since 1989, so a little over 30 years, and the polyethylene film study has been around for nearly 30 years, so most of our life. We do this study about every 2.5 to 3 years. It is by and far our most popular market study. It's obviously popular with the resin manufacturers, the converters, as well as equipment manufacturers, private equity firms as well. So this team of the Mastio group for the PE film studies led by Kim Inna, who has been doing this for nearly 27 years, so quite some time. Her team really focuses from a methodology perspective, Jim, on what I call primary research. And what we mean by that is we collect this data ourselves. We make telephone calls, our team does, to people within these organizations to capture feedback from folks in procurement and in marketing and sales and engineering and across the board to get what we would like to consider a more holistic view of a company's place in the various markets in which they participate, what resins, what growth rates, et cetera. So really insights into not only an individual company level, but a market level as well. We publish this study, Jim, about every 2.5 to 3 years. We published the most recent study in March of 2020 with the data collection effort taking place in late 2019 into early 2020. And really, I say this every time, polyethylene is a good place to be. So this is a very compelling study relative to understanding where the industry is going and where the opportunities might exist.
Right, thanks. So what are the high-level points that folks need to know about bubble film? It's a small market, growing at a pretty decent amount. I would imagine that e-commerce is fueling a lot of that growth. What are some of the observations that you think are critical?
Absolutely, and this happens to be the 3rd fastest growing market we identified out of the 33 markets, Jim, that we profile. And really, when we look at bubble packaging, we look at it from a whole, but we also break out what we call cellular wrap, which is the smaller air pockets or bubbles, as well as the void fill, so the air pillows or the cushions. And if you think about the void fill, they really compete against EPS. And if you get a computer or you get other items, typically you're going to see either EPS or the void fill. Really, like you said, a small number of participants, not an extremely large market, but very, very competitive. The top 2 participants in this market hold nearly 45% of the market share. And to echo your point a few moments ago, one of the key drivers for that growth is e-commerce. So if you think about, as I mentioned earlier, when we captured the data, it was obviously pre-COVID-19 pandemic timeframe. So then this market's experienced even greater growth as we see the growth of e-commerce, not just with Amazon, but with Walmart and Home Depot and others that leverage and use this type of material in the boxes that they send to their customers. And with this, like any other market, I talk about every time are recyclability, sustainability are constant concerns. And I know a lot of people will reuse some of this at their office if they're shipping something else, but the landfill component is always a concern when you think about bubble packaging.
Right. More co-extrusion in this market than in some of the others we've looked at so far too.
Absolutely. When we think about the 5 largest markets, very little co-extrusion, in some markets, none whatsoever. But this is a much more of a mix when we think about from that perspective, Jim.
Interesting. Well, thanks for your input, Kevin. I'd like to remind everyone who is watching this video to read the article that's associated with it. From there, you'll be able to link to previous articles we have written detailing other market segments included in the Mastio study. And you'll also be able to link to Mastio's website and see what's going on there. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Jim.